SNBC TV 18, celebrating 15 years of leadership.
Major relief for Vodafone in the 3,200 crore rupee transfer pricing case. The government declares truce, will not appeal against the Bombay High Court ruling against the taxman. The centre believes the move will boost investor sentiment, could set a precedent for Shell and other transfer pricing cases.
One case solved, but the big one is still pending. The government is in the process of appointing arbitrators to solve the 20,000 crore rupee retrospective tax case with Vodafone. Telecom majors' lawyers say the arbitration will not happen either in India or in Netherlands.
Decks cleared for the 3G spectrum auction. The cabinet sides with the Telecom Commission and rejects the regulator's call for a lower base price, sets the reserve price at just over 3,700 crore rupees. This is 11% higher than the price set for the 2010 auctions.
The finance minister may provide tax relief to manufacturing in the upcoming budget. The minimum alternate tax on MAT could be slashed for small and medium enterprises, SEZs, industrial corridors and smart cities. That's the big exclusive.
The stage is set for the government to dilute its stake in Coal India. 5% will be sold through an offer for sale and an additional 5% via a green shoe option this Friday. The floor price will be finalized tomorrow. The share sale could fetch the government about 24,000 crore rupees.
The cabinet approves HDFC Bank's proposal to bring in foreign investment worth 10,000 crores without exceeding the 74% cap. Lupin also allowed to bring in foreign investment worth over 6,000 crores as the FPI cap has been raised to 49% from the current 33%.
The Sensex and the Nifty scale new highs before succumbing to profit-taking, but the Nifty manages to end the day in the green above the 8,900 mark. The Sensex also ends the day flat.
Between Gujarat and Manesar and Gurgaon has to be planned. So
the Gujarat Chief Minister lays the foundation stone for the Maruti plant in the state, which will be owned by Suzuki. R.C. Bhargava tells NBC TV 18 the plant will begin production by mid-2017 and is confident of getting minority shareholders on board.
Global markets perk up as the US Fed is all set to wrap up its two-day meeting. Wall Street expects Yellen to remain patient over rates as a CNBC survey shows rate hikes could be delayed. Stocks in Greece tanked 9% even as other European markets clock healthy gains. Well, did you know 34,000 iPhones are being sold every hour? Apple has made history by selling over 74 million iPhones over the last 3 months of 2014. So the number of people who own an iPhone 6 is more than the population of countries like France and the United Kingdom. And not just that, with Apple has also recorded the highest quarterly profit, clocking $18 billion. And that is some record to beat. Good evening. Thanks very much for joining us on India Business Hour. Nantha, do you want to show off your iPhone?
If I
not in very good state, though.
I would have cleaned it and like made it shiny new, and I known I was
maybe
making it
I have to add to that number that Apple is just at 34,000 every hour. I need to add to that. But let's get straight to the day's trading action. There was plenty of it. After breaking records for 5 straight days, the bulls decided to take a pit stop on Dalal Street. The Sensex charged ahead in early trade, but then profit booking crept in to halt the 8-day winning streak. The Nifty also powering towards 9,000, but then saw some sharp cuts to end the day marginally in the green after underperforming for many days. The mid-caps ran the blue chips today, so that's the Nifty, the Sensex and the mid-cap index for you. But the big story tonight, in a significant move that could set a major precedent, the government has decided to call a truce with Vodafone over a transfer pricing case. The Bombay High Court had ruled against the taxman in a 3,200 crore rupee case, and now the cabinet has decided not to appeal against the verdict. This could set a precedent for companies like Shell and others who are fighting similar cases. Listen in to the telecom minister.
Investors' confidence has been shaken in the past because of very fluctuating tax policy. The government led by Shri Narendra Modi as Prime Minister wants to convey a clear message to the investors world over that this is a government where the decisions will be fair, transparent.
Well, that's the telecom minister saying the government wants to send out a strong signal to investors, and hence it's decided not to appeal against the Bombay High Court's verdict in the Vodafone transfer pricing matter. Joining us now is the Attorney General of India, Mukul Rohatgi. Mr. Rohatgi, appreciate you joining us here on India Business Hour. Let me start by asking you, sir, if there was unanimity between the government's law officers as far as this proposal is concerned. Ironically, I understand that this was a proposal that was actually moved by the CBDT, and you opined that the government should not go ahead and appeal, but was there unanimity as far as that decision was concerned?
No, certainly there was no unanimity. The Revenue Department and the CBDT wanted to file an appeal because they thought that they were being deprived of a huge sum of money in terms of tax. The Solicitor General opined that an appeal should be filed. Then my view was taken and I opined that the decision of the Bombay High Court was correct. The transaction was not taxable as per the Instant Income Tax Act, and I opined that appeal should not be filed. And another reason which bolsters the same view was that investor confidence was completely shaken in an uncertain tax regime with negativism flowing around for the last couple of years. And that also spurred my decision. And finally, the FM called a meeting of everybody, and everybody expressed their views freely. And I think the FM agreed with my view, and finally it went to the cabinet. And now you tell me that cabinet has endorsed the view. That's how it has happened.
Yes, the cabinet has indeed endorsed the view, but once again, in terms of revenues concerns as far as this matter is concerned, but I'm given to understand that the CBDT was actually on board with not filing an appeal. You're saying that the CBDT was in favor of actually appealing to the Supreme Court. But how have you managed, or how has the government managed to allay revenues concerns? Because this is going to set a precedent not just for Vodafone, but for other similar cases, sir.
See, you have to first see the facts of each case and the legality involved. Numbers don't matter. What matters is the principle. If the judgment was correct and there was no logical reason for moving the Supreme Court, that view could not be colored only by looking at numbers. That's the way I look at things. And if there are similar other cases in the pipeline, then probably they should get the same treatment, subject to verification that they are pretty similar or identical. I mean, we have to set a good benchmark. We have to ensure that every case doesn't land up in the Supreme Court because nobody is willing to take a call. I don't frankly remember whether CBDT in this case took the call of not filing an appeal, but as far as I am concerned, I took a positive view which has been accepted. You have to understand that, you know, we have to set a particular atmosphere must be seen in the country by all concerned, including foreign investors, that there is certainty in tax regimes, which is most important for people to put their houses and businesses in order. If you're going to change views and have retrospective taxation going back to 1962, then certainly that is not a certain state of affairs. It's a most uncertain state of affairs, which, you know, impacts investor confidence. And let me tell you, there is a national mission in the Law Ministry, which is the vision of the government, including the Prime Minister, the Law Minister, the mandate to the Chairman of Law Commission, that we must decongest the courts, we must declog the legal system, which is staggering under a huge weight, and therefore conscious decisions must be taken not only in tax matters, but in every other matter across the board, whether every matter should be carried to the Supreme Court or not. That bureaucratic mindset must change. People must take decisions. And I will tell you, I take these decisions every day in advising not to file appeals in large number of cases. And you know, as I said earlier on another channel, that even if appeals are filed and I come across those appeals, I very often tell the Supreme Court that there is no merit in these appeals and they should be rejected. So unless you have,
but Mr. Rodki, I know you're saying that you're making a conscious decision as the Attorney General to avoid unnecessary litigation, and you believe that it is the national mandate to reduce litigation. But if I could ask you about the precedent that this decision of the government will set, specifically for matters like Shell, for matters like Kane, has your opinion, has the law officer's opinion been sought by the government, by the CBDT on any of those other cases?
No, let me tell you, I have not seen any other case, whether it be Shell or Kane or whatever you say, but I keep hearing that they are identical, or somebody says they are similar, they come on the same basis from the same High Court. I have not seen them, but subject to verification, if they involve the same legal question, namely taxability of a transaction of similar nature, then I guess they should get the same treatment. I mean, I told you 2 minutes ago that the matter is one of principle. It cannot vary just because the assessee is different. Once you accept the principle that the view of the Bombay High Court is correct, then that view, wherever it applies, must be accepted, and appeals ought not to be preferred.
Right. Mr. Rodki, let me also ask you a question which foreign investors want clarity on, and this is not to do with transfer pricing and the government's decision today. This has to do with the ordinance, specifically the insurance ordinance. Foreign investors like Bupa have committed to invest according to the new cap that the insurance ordinance has taken forward, but they're worried because of what's happened with people like Vodafone in the past. If this doesn't go through the Rajya Sabha and it doesn't go through Parliament over the next 6 months, what happens to investments that are made during this period while the ordinance is in place?
See, let me tell you, as far as the legal position is concerned, if the ordinance changes the legal scenario and action is taken under the ordinance, then even if the ordinance lapses after 6 months, the action or the laws or the change in laws is not undone. That is a clear legal position. So it's not as if that things will change after 6 months. Secondly, as the finance minister has repeatedly said, if they don't have proper numbers in Rajya Sabha and the matter is blocked, then for certain types of matters, the ruling party has a right to call a joint session in which both the houses participate and the majority works. So that is one another thing which can happen. But I personally think that if the parliament works in a positive fashion and not in a disruptive fashion, then probably these amendments ought to go through, and these amendments will certainly bring about a good sea change in the economic scenario. And I think it will be hunky-dory for all concerned.
A final question to you, Mr. Rodgi, and while you said that the mandate is to bring down litigation, we've seen the government being involved because of what's happened in the past in several arbitration proceedings, including one with Vodafone. What is going to be the effort and the attempt as far as the arbitration proceedings are concerned? And also, if I could ask you this, is there any plan at this point in time to dilute the arbitration clause as part of the bilateral investment protection agreement, the model agreement, which is currently still under works?
I cannot make a comment on this question because I am not fully privy to all this. But if there is arbitration, then in this Vodafone case, as you say, then of course it has to go to its logical conclusion.
All right, Mr. Rodgi, we'll leave it there. Appreciate you joining us here on CNBC TV 18. That's the Attorney General of India, Mukul Rodgi, saying the mission of this government is to bring down litigation. Nenta.
Sheen, more reactions. Vodafone's counsel Harish Salve spoke to me soon after the government announced its decision. Salve said this decision will go a long way in boosting investor sentiment. He added the taxman was being adventurous and the case was not doing the department proud.
I'm very happy this has happened. I mean, The judgment is clearly right. The income tax department was being nothing short of being adventurous in even trying to impose this tax. One really wonders whether they even understand basics of law when they come up with these kind of demands. It doesn't do them proud. It doesn't do the country proud. And I'm happy the government has taken a firm decision to bury this. Sooner the better. I hope a larger message goes through to the tax department that their attempts to attack foreign companies as though they are some trophies to be won is not now being appreciated by the administration.
Mr. Salvi, over the weekend...
That's the important message.
Yeah, that's what I wanted to come to actually. Over the weekend, we saw the Prime Minister Narendra Modi at that Indo-US Business Council meet promise that India was not going to be tax adversarial anymore. It was going to moderate all of that. The Finance Minister has also spoken about it. So is this message strong enough? You're saying you hope it will be a strong enough signal, but in your view, you're also a chartered accountant. Is it good enough to get foreign investors to invest again in India?
It is believe me, this is a very positive step. And the foreign investors had just about had enough when the department embarked on this and the IBM assessment, which is another monstrosity, which is an accident waiting to explode. But it definitely sends a very good message saying they are respecting court verdicts. They're not even taking it to the Supreme Court. What a sharp difference from Vodafone winning in Supreme Court and then the retrospective amendment. So this is a change of heart. That's a very good message. But what people are still waiting to see is the change in the ground in the manner in which the Indian tax department conducts himself. Now that requires complete mindset change in the tax department, and that is not going to come so easily. That is going to be a much more difficult thing to do because you have to retrain people to think very differently from what they do today. Don't look at foreign company as some sort of monsters who are here and therefore you must get at their profits anyhow which you can, any way which you can, harass the life out of them if necessary. Don't treat them like that because in other countries that's not how tax systems work. If you have a problem, nobody says you sacrifice legitimate revenue, but it's done very differently. And there also ultimately has to be a system in which wherever there is a genuine tax dispute, the taxpayer and the tax administration sit across a table, resolve it, and the matter is given a quietus, not some young accountant from the CAG's office taking pot shots at it and second guessing.
As Harish Salve is saying, the adventurism of the tax department must be reined in. Now, transfer pricing is just one of the issues Vodafone has been fighting with the taxman. Vodafone and the income tax department have been locked in a bitter standoff of almost 20,000 crore rupees once you add the penalty and the interest, and that's since the British company acquired Hutchison Whampoa's Indian mobile assets in 2007. Then, global headlines were made when the UPA government tried to overturn Vodafone's victory at the Supreme Court with a retrospective tax amendment. Since then, we have seen the Indian government and Vodafone try to reconcile this. Speaking to me earlier in the day, Anuradha Dutt, the counsel to Vodafone, said the government is moving towards appointing arbitrators and that the international arbitration would take place neither in India nor in Netherlands. Remember, Vodafone is invoking the India-Netherlands bilateral investment protection agreement in this case. We've discussed the transfer pricing case. You are Vodafone's counsel. The current finance minister has recused himself from the other big tax case, the multi-billion-dollar one. We've been hearing a lot about whether there's going to be arbitration, no arbitration. Can you give us an update on what exactly is happening? Are there reconciliation talks that are taking place between Vodafone and the government?
See, the difficulty is this is sub judice at the moment, so I can't really say much except that it is in the process of arbitration, but exactly what is happening I am not able to reveal.
But has an arbitration tribunal been set up? Do we know in which country we're going to see?
It is in the process.
Is it going to be in India? Is it going to be overseas? Because that was also a bone of contention with the UPA government.
That was only for conciliation. Otherwise, the rules are very clear that the arbitration does not happen either in India or in Netherlands. The two, the countries where the two parties are based. So it should be a third country, but I cannot say at this stage whether, what will be agreed between the arbitrators. So let's see.
But the arbitrators have been appointed by the two sides. Has that happened?
It's in the process. Yeah, that has happened. It's in the process now of the tribunal constitution.
Well, that's the Vodafone Council on the status as far as the arbitration proceedings are concerned. Now, the centre is stepping on the gas to speed up its disinvestment drive. The government will sell 5% stake in Coal India through an offer for sale and an additional 5% through a green shoe option. This could fetch nearly 24,000 crore rupees. The OFS will take place this Friday and the floor price will be announced tomorrow. Sources say JM Financial, Kotak, Credit Suisse, Goldman Sachs, Deutsche Bank, among others, have been appointed as bankers to the stake dilution. Coal India is going to be the stock to watch out for, and this one, when it goes through, will certainly help the government come close to its ambitious disinvestment target. Well, the Cabinet Committee on Economic Affairs today also gave the final nod to two big-ticket FDI proposals of HDFC Bank and Lupin. Both these proposals were cleared by the FIPB in November, and since FDI inflows arising out of the proposals exceed 1,200 crore rupees, they were sent to the CCA for final clearance. Ritu joins us now with the details of the approval. Ritu, these are going to be two stocks to watch out for, and we were anticipating this decision.
The CCA granted approvals to two FDI proposals which will lead to foreign investment inflow of over 16,000 crore to India. These two proposals were actually stuck for more than 1 year due to policy-related issues. The initial proposals of both these companies, that is HDFC Bank and Lupin, were not in sync with the FDI policy, but later there were changes which were made, and after that the FIPB had granted approvals during the last part of 2014 to both these proposals, and today the final nod came in the form of the CCA approval. Let me start with HDFC Bank first. There are two approvals which were given to HDFC Bank. Firstly, to increase the foreign investment participation in the HDFC Bank to 74%. That is one. The second approval is to let the bank raise 10,000 crores from NRIs, FIIs and FPIs. The other proposal that was approved was regarding Lupin. The Lupin currently has FPI participation of about 33%, and the approval that was given today by the CCA is to raise this FPI participation from 33% to 49%, and as a result the government expects foreign investment inflows of 6,099 crores into Lupin. So two crucial and important FDI related proposals getting final nod from the CCEA today. With that, it's back to you.
All right, Ritu, appreciate you joining us for a quick take on what this will mean for the markets tomorrow. Joining us now is Dipan Mehta. Dipan, appreciate you joining us. Let me start with the big one, and that is Coal India. The pricing will be decided tomorrow and the OFS will go through on Friday. The government hopes to mop up 24,000 crore rupees. Will it fly with investors?
Well, that's a million-dollar question and very difficult to answer at this point of time, because earlier divestments have not really yielded any major returns for investors who invested in the PSUs, be it ONGC or even Coal India for that matter. And in the past, all these PSU decisions will have to be bailed out by public sector banks and insurance companies. But maybe I think, this time around the India fever is a bit high and there is a lot of money liquidity flowing into equities, so maybe the timing will benefit Coal India and it may sail through. But one would have preferred to have more clarity as far as Coal India's operations are concerned, autonomy of the board, even what the thinking on as far as auction of coal is concerned. So some sort of reform process for the coal sector would have benefited the stock, but that's not what happened. So that's a bit of a dampener.
What about HDFC Bank and Lupin? And let's start with HDFC Bank. How significant is this development going to be from a stock movement point of view, Dipan?
I think it's very positive for both the companies, HDFC Bank and Lupin. I think pragmatic view has been taken by the government in granting them permission. There is very good appetite for good quality financial stocks, and HDFC Bank is the absolute gold plate as far as financials and banks are concerned. So the response will be very positive from investors as well as on the stock price, and also it will benefit in terms of the growth of the company, because that much more capital will be there, and just at the right time when the economy is picking up and credit growth rates also should pick up. So definitely positive for HDFC Bank and Lupin as well. But I think in the case of Lupin, as far as investors are concerned, there are a lot of options for pharmaceutical companies. So there are lots of other, other companies which investors could look at. So maybe not as much for Lupin, but for HDFC Bank, I think certainly is a major boost.
So the race to 9,000 for the Nifty and 30,000 for the Sensex, Deepan, when do you believe the markets are likely to get there?
Let's hope it's just done tomorrow itself. I mean, your guess is as good as mine. But it's just a number, 9,000. I think the important thing is that the news flow remains extremely positive, what we saw today as well. And the build-up to the budget is turning out to be pretty good. And hopefully, if you have a good budget, then, it will attract even more money into the markets. I think right now liquidity flows are very strong, be it from FIIs as well as a good amount of appetite coming in from retail investors and HNIs as well. So we need to have this entire kind of mood, positive, sentiment, optimistic.
Yeah.
And that should carry our markets for the next few months.
All right, the bull run is expected to continue. Deepan Mehta, always a pleasure. Thanks very much for joining us. Well, that's not the only headline that we're tracking, or not the only headline that the cabinet made today. The government has also decided to set the reserve price for 3G spectrum at just over 3,700 crore rupees. Let's go across to Malvika for more details. Malvika, there's been a lot of back and forth on this matter, but perhaps this news was already priced in, because it was very clear that the government, that the Telecom Commission and the DOT were not in favor of the TRAI's recommendation of a lower base price, and the government has finally decided to go along with the Telecom Commission.
Well, that's right, Shireen. As always, the Telecom Commission seems to have prevailed, and now, as things stand today, the government has fixed the reserve price at over 37% in comparison to what the TRAI had recommended. Now, telecom companies like Bharti Airtel, Vodafone, Idea, Reliance Communications, whose licenses are coming up for renewal, will necessarily have to participate in this auction. And like you rightly pointed out, this had pretty much been factored in because this was the buzz for a long time. Ravi Shankar Prasad, of course, defended the government's position, saying that there is no artificial scarcity of spectrum, and this is a campaign that is being run by telecom companies. Let's listen in to what the minister had to say and what the telecom operators had to say in their defense.
Spectrum sharing, a spectrum trading guideline is being finalized. There is a process. It will go to the TRAI, come to us, take a call, then that will also be notified. Therefore, I'm sorry to say, but today I'm constrained to observe that some of the campaign I don't appreciate. Beyond this word, if I can say something as a matter of fun, I think some companies will be the happiest if the telecom minister says that I'm going to settle a spectrum for a free.
Our membership would be extremely disappointed with the acceptance of the Telecom Commission's pricing. We thought that the TRAI pricing was very reasonable, analytically correct and sound, and so we will support that. By increasing it to the telecom level, we again believe that this would be a hamper and a dampener to the telecom vision set by the Honorable Prime Minister of Digital India. Prices are going to increase. This is the fundamental raw material by which all telecom companies operate. Ultimately, this will have to be passed on. Ultimately, it will dampen the investments that will be made in the network rollout.
The cost of producing a fully loaded megabyte is probably more like between 55 and 60 paisa. And when you look at the best operator in the marketplace, he's recovering 27, 28 paisa from the consumer. Well, you can treat spectrum as on a marginal costing basis for 5 megs, but you can't do it for perpetuity. So it's just a matter of time where all these operators will have to begin to charge a fully loaded price from the consumers.
And with that, it's a wrap on this edition of India Business Hour. Thanks for watching. News and updates continue on CNBC TV 18.